All right, so we've got a really fascinating set of notes and articles all about personal growth.
Yeah.
And looks like we're going to be diving deep
Yeah.
into how self-awareness impacts, everything from decision making
Wow.
to leadership to even creativity.
It's a fascinating area to
Yeah.
explore for sure.
Yeah. And we're also seeing here mentions of mindfulness and emotional resilience
Right.
and the growth mindset. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to unpack all of this
Yeah,
and
yeah.
see what practical takeaways we
Absolutely.
can,
What's interesting is how
yeah.
these concepts, which might seem abstract
Mm-hmm.
at first glance, actually have very real and tangible
Yeah.
applications in our daily lives.
Yeah, the first thing that really jumps out at me from this material
Yeah.
is this emphasis on self-awareness as the foundation.
Right.
Like, why is that so crucial for everything else?
Imagine trying to build a skyscraper without a solid foundation.
Yeah,
You might get a few floors up, but eventually the whole structure would crumble.
right.
Self-awareness is that foundation
Yeah.
for personal growth.
Okay.
It's about understanding your own values, your strengths, and even your weaknesses,
Uh-huh.
so you can make choices that are truly in alignment with who you are.
So it's not just about
Yeah.
knowing what you like and dislike.
No.
It's about understanding.
It's about understanding
Yeah.
how those preferences,
Yeah.
those internal biases,
Right.
even your emotional triggers,
Yeah.
can impact your decisions.
Yeah, one of the sources here has this really interesting point about
Yeah.
how self-awareness helps you recognize those patterns in your behavior,
That-
particularly in stressful environments.
That's a key point.
Yeah.
Think about those times.
Yeah.
You might have said or done something
Uh-huh.
you later regretted,
Right.
especially under pressure.
Yeah.
By paying attention to how you react in those situations,
Mhm.
you can start to anticipate those patterns
Yeah.
and make different choices next time.
So if I know that I tend to shut down
Right.
in meetings with my boss,
Exactly.
self-awareness could help me prepare beforehand,
Absolutely.
maybe rehearse what I want to say,
Yes.
or even just try to figure out why I feel that way in the first place.
Exactly. It's not just about recognizing the patterns.
Yeah.
It's about using that knowledge to change your behavior and create a more positive outcome.
Okay.
And that's where mindfulness comes in.
Okay, mindfulness seems to be everywhere these days,
Yeah.
but I admit sometimes it feels a bit esoteric.
Yeah.
How does it fit into this practical approach?
Mindfulness at its core is about training your attention.
Okay.
It's about noticing your thoughts and feelings without judgment,
Okay.
almost like an observer.
So it's not about emptying your mind
No, not at all.
or achieving some kind of Zen state.
No, it's more about creating a space
Okay.
between a stimulus and your reaction.
Okay.
Let's say someone cuts you off in traffic.
Uh-huh.
Instead of immediately getting angry, mindfulness allows you to pause,
Mm.
acknowledge the feeling of anger,
Okay.
and then choose a more skillful response.
Okay, that sounds useful.
Yeah.
But how do you actually practice mindfulness?
Well,
I'm picturing meditation retreats and chanting.
those can be helpful, but mindfulness can be much simpler.
Okay.
You can try focusing on your breath for a few minutes each day,
Okay.
paying attention to the sensations of your body,
Uh-huh.
or even just being fully present during a meal,
Okay.
savoring each bite.
Okay, so these are things that anyone can try even in the middle of a busy day.
Absolutely.
But how does this mindful awareness then translate into better communication?
Well, imagine you're in a conversation
Okay.
and the other person says something you disagree with.
Uh-huh.
Mindfulness can help you stay present with your own emotions.
Okay.
Maybe that surge of defensiveness,
Right?
so you don't react impulsively.
Yeah.
Instead, you can listen more deeply to what they're saying. Maybe even ask clarifying questions to understand their perspective better.
So instead of just planning my rebuttal in my head,
Precisely.
I'm actually absorbing what they're saying
Yeah.
and processing it without immediately judging.
And that's a game changer for communication.
Okay. Your materials also talk a lot about assertiveness.
Right.
How does that tie into being a good communicator?
Assertiveness is about expressing your needs and boundaries
Mm-hmm.
clearly and respectfully
Okay.
without being aggressive or passive.
Right.
It's about advocating for yourself
Yeah.
while still being mindful of the other person's perspective.
So it's that balance between being a pushover and a steamroller?
Yes.
Okay.
And it requires self-awareness
Uh-huh.
because you need to understand what your needs and boundaries are in the first place.
Right.
For example, if a coworker keeps interrupting you,
Yeah.
instead of passively getting frustrated
Yeah.
or aggressively snapping at them,
Right.
you could assertively say, I understand you have something important to share and I want to hear it.
Right.
Would it be okay if I finish my thought first?
That's a much more constructive approach
I mean-
than just letting resentment build up or
Exactly.
creating conflict.
Yes.
But what about when those disagreements escalate into full-blown arguments?
Well,
How can self-awareness help us navigate?
conflict is a natural part
Yeah.
of any relationship,
Right.
whether it's personal or professional.
Yeah.
But the way we approach conflict can make all the difference.
So you're saying it's not about avoiding conflict altogether,
Exactly.
but about handling it.
It's about handling it
Yeah.
in a healthy way.
In a healthy way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Self-awareness helps us understand
Uh,
what's really at stake for us
Okay.
in a conflict.
okay.
Are we feeling threatened,
Right.
disrespected? Are we worried about losing something? By
No.
understanding our own emotional triggers,
Yeah.
we can communicate our needs more effectively and listen more empathetically to the other person's concerns.
One of the sources you provided talks about separating the problem from the person.
Yeah.
How does that work in practice?
Let's say you and a colleague are clashing
Yeah.
over how to approach a project.
Right.
Instead of seeing it as me versus them,
Right.
you could step back and say,
Yeah.
okay, we both want this project to be successful,
Uh-huh.
but we have different ideas about how to get there.
Right.
Let's explore those differences
Yeah.
and see if we can find a solution that works for both of us.
That takes the personal sting out of it
It does.
and allows you to focus on finding common ground.
It also opens up space for creativity.
Oh.
When you're not locked in a battle of egos,
Yeah. Huh.
you can brainstorm more freely
Right.
and come up with innovative solutions.
That's a great point.
Yeah?
Conflict, when approached constructively, can actually spark innovation.
Right.
It's like friction creating heat.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, conflict can also be incredibly draining, even when you handle it well.
Yes.
How does personal growth help us build the resilience to bounce back
Well, that's
from
fair.
those tough interactions?
That's where understanding your own emotional landscape
Okay.
becomes so important.
Okay.
Resilience isn't about never feeling hurt or frustrated.
Right.
It's about having the tools to process those difficult emotions
Okay.
and come back stronger.
One of your sources talked about reframing setbacks
Yeah.
as learning opportunities.
Absolutely.
That sounds great in theory.
Think of it like this. Every challenge,
Yeah.
every conflict, every difficult conversation offers valuable data.
Uh-huh.
It might be data about your own communication style,
Right.
your emotional triggers, or even the dynamics of a particular relationship.
Okay.
Instead of getting stuck in self-blame or resentment,
Yeah.
ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience?
Okay.
How can I use this information
Huh.
to make a different choice next time?
So it's about turning those failures into valuable feedback
Yeah.
that helps you grow.
And that shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
It means that even the tough moments
Uh-huh.
can contribute to your personal growth.
This is already giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But before we move on, there's one more area I want to make sure we touch on.
Okay.
Creativity.
Creativity.
One of your sources described it as a way of thinking,
Right.
or a way of approaching the world with curiosity
Right.
and a willingness to try new things.
Exactly. It's about looking at the world with fresh eyes,
Uh-huh.
making connections between seemingly unrelated ideas
Right?
and coming up with novel solutions to problems.
You're saying it's a skill that can be cultivated,
Absolutely.
not just something you're born with.
And self-awareness plays a huge role here.
Okay.
By understanding your own thought patterns, your biases, even your fears,
Right.
you can start to break free from those limitations
Okay.
and open yourself up to new possibilities.
So if I'm someone who's always struggled with creativity,
Right.
self-awareness could help me identify those internal roadblocks that are holding me back.
Maybe you have a fear of failure
Uh-huh.
that prevents you from trying new things.
Right.
Or perhaps you're so focused on following the rules
Yeah.
that you never allow yourself to think outside the box.
This is fascinating.
Yeah,
So self-awareness is like unlocking the door to our creative potential.
it is.
But how do we actually walk through that door?
One of the most powerful things you can do
Yeah.
is expose yourself to new experiences,
Okay.
new ideas, new perspectives.
So like traveling to a new country,
All of those.
trying a new hobby, or even just having a conversation
Absolutely.
with someone who has a totally different background than me.
It's about breaking out of your routine,
Okay.
challenging your assumptions,
Uh-huh.
and opening yourself up to the unexpected.
Another source mentioned the importance of playfulness and experimentation.
Right.
It sounds like we need to give ourselves permission to be a little bit messy, to try things without worrying about getting it right all the time.
Creativity thrives in an environment
Yeah.
where you feel safe to take risks,
Yeah.
to make mistakes,
Okay.
and to learn from those experiences.
This is really shifting my perspective on creativity. I'm starting to see it less as a talent and more as a muscle
Yes,
that we can all develop
it is.
with practice and the right mindset.
And speaking of mindset,
Yeah.
that brings us to another crucial aspect of personal growth,
Okay.
the growth mindset.
This is one of those concepts I've heard a lot about,
Right.
but I'm not sure I fully grasp.
It's the belief that your abilities, your intelligence, your talents
Okay.
are not fixed,
Mm-hmm.
but rather they can be developed through effort learning and persistence.
So instead of saying, I'm just not good at math,
Right.
a person with a growth mindset would say, I'm not good at math yet,
Exactly.
but I can improve with practice and the right strategies.
And that subtle shift in language
Okay.
can make a huge difference. Instead of seeing challenges as evidence of your limitations,
Right.
you see them as opportunities for
Yeah.
growth and learning.
One of your sources gave the example of a student struggling with a difficult subject.
Yeah.
How does a growth mindset help in that situation?
Imagine a student who's always struggled with writing,
Okay.
with a fixed mindset.
Mm-hmm.
They might avoid challenging writing assignments thinking,
Right.
I'm just not a good writer.
Yeah.
But with a growth mindset,
Mm.
they would embrace those challenges as opportunities
Okay.
to improve their skills.
They might seek out feedback from their teacher,
Exactly.
practice different writing techniques,
Yeah.
or even study the work of writers they admire.
And even if they don't get an A on every assignment,
Mm-hmm.
they would see each step forward as a victory, a sign that their effort is paying off.
This is so empowering.
It is.
It's like saying we all have the potential to grow and learn,
Yeah.
regardless of our starting point.
And that's what's so exciting about personal growth.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the journey
Mm-hmm.
with all its ups and downs
Right.
and trusting that with the right mindset and the right tools,
Okay.
we can achieve amazing things.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
How self-awareness,
Yeah.
mindfulness, assertiveness, a growth mindset,
Uh-huh.
and even creativity
Yeah.
all contribute to our ability to communicate more effectively,
Right.
navigate conflict constructively,
Uh,
and build resilience in the face of challenges.
We've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still so much to explore.
There is.
I'm particularly interested in diving deeper
Yes.
into those concepts of purpose, leadership, and well-being.
Okay.
They seem to be closely linked to everything we've discussed so far.
They are.
Okay.
And they offer even more opportunities to understand
Uh-huh.
how self-awareness can empower us
Right.
to live more fulfilling and meaningful lives.
Let's take a quick pause here
Sounds good.
and come back refreshed to delve into those fascinating topics.
Great.
All right. See you in a bit.
Okay. So, as we were talking about self-awareness,
Yeah.
it's interesting how it connects to this idea of purpose.
Right.
Your notes really highlight that.
Purpose is something I think about a lot. Like, what is it all for? What am I meant to do?
Yeah.
It can feel really exciting and sometimes really overwhelming.
It can be both.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be this huge, daunting question.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Purpose emerges
Uh-huh.
when your passions and talents intersect with a need in the world.
Okay.
It could be as simple as bringing joy to your family
Right.
or volunteering in your community.
One of the articles you shared talked about someone who found their purpose
Yeah.
working in sustainable agriculture.
Yeah.
They were passionate about the environment
Right.
and had this knack for business.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Their purpose wasn't something they just stumbled upon.
Yeah.
It grew from their interests and skills.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to pay attention to those moments when you feel energized and engaged.
Right.
What activities make you lose track of time?
I've also heard that looking at what frustrates you can be revealing.
Absolutely. If you're constantly irritated by inefficiency,
Uh-huh.
maybe your purpose lies in finding ways to improve systems.
Right.
Or if injustice makes you angry,
Yeah.
perhaps you're meant to be an advocate.
Okay.
Those strong emotional reactions can be powerful indicators.
So it's about noticing both the positive and the negative.
Yeah.
The things that light us up and the things that make us want to change things.
Exactly. And remember, purpose can evolve over time.
Okay.
Don't feel pressured to have all the answers right now.
Right.
Keep experimenting. Stay curious.
Okay. That takes some of the pressure off.
Good.
I also noticed a lot of your materials focused on leadership.
Yeah.
Is there a connection between leadership and purpose?
A strong one.
Okay.
Authentic leadership comes from a place of purpose.
Okay.
when you're clear about your why. Your actions have more impact, and you inspire others to join you.
One of your sources had a great story about a manager
Right.
who turned a struggling team around.
Yeah.
They didn't focus on metrics alone, they connected with each team member.
That's a fantastic illustration.
Yeah.
That manager wasn't just giving orders.
Yeah.
They were creating a shared purpose.
So leadership isn't about having all the answers
No.
or barking out commands.
Right.
It's more about creating an environment where
Yeah.
people feel motivated and empowered to contribute.
And where their work feels meaningful.
Right.
It's not just about what they're doing,
Yeah.
but why they're doing it.
It also seems like self-awareness plays a big role in leadership.
Definitely, a self-aware leader knows their strengths and weaknesses.
Uh-huh.
They're able to delegate effectively and seek support when needed.
Okay.
They also understand how their emotions and behavior affect the team.
So a leader who's prone to getting stressed
Yeah.
might learn techniques to manage that stress
Right.
so they don't create a tense work environment.
And self-awareness helps leaders be more empathetic.
Uh-huh.
They can understand the perspectives and needs of their team members,
Okay.
creating a culture of trust and respect.
Your notes also mention vulnerability as a surprisingly important leadership quality.
It seems counterintuitive.
Right.
We think of leaders as strong and decisive,
Right.
but admitting you don't have all the answers
Yeah.
or asking for help actually builds trust.
It makes you more human and relatable.
Exactly. It shows your team that it's okay to not be perfect,
Uh-huh.
to make mistakes, and to rely on each other for support.
There was a great example of this in one of your sources.
Yeah.
A CEO admitted they made a mistake in a company-wide meeting.
Right.
Instead of losing credibility, they gained respect for their honesty.
That's the power of vulnerability.
Yeah.
It fosters a culture of psychological safety
Okay.
where people feel comfortable taking risks
Uh-huh.
and sharing their ideas.
It's almost like by being vulnerable, you give others permission to be vulnerable too, which
Huh.
ultimately makes the team stronger.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that sense of connection and trust
Uh-huh.
is essential for any high-performing team.
It seems like we've been talking a lot about thriving in challenging situations,
Yeah.
whether it's conflict or leadership.
Right.
How does well-being fit into all of this?
Well-being is crucial. We can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
You need to take care of your physical, mental, and emotional health
Uh-huh.
to show up fully for yourself and for others.
One of your sources used the analogy of a car running on fumes.
It's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Well-being isn't a luxury.
Right.
It's essential for sustained productivity, creativity, and resilience.
So what are some practical strategies
Wow.
for incorporating well-being into our busy lives?
Start with the basics.
Okay.
Adequate sleep, healthy eating, regular exercise.
Mhm.
Those are the foundation.
Okay.
But also think about activities that replenish you emotionally.
Things like spending time in nature,
Exactly.
listening to music,
Right.
or connecting with loved ones.
It's about finding what truly nourishes you
Okay.
and making it a priority.
Right.
It's not selfish.
Mhm.
When you prioritize well-being,
Yeah.
you're better equipped to handle stress, make sound decisions,
Right.
and be more present for the people in your life.
Another aspect of well-being that I see popping up in your notes is this idea of boundaries.
Boundaries are crucial.
Okay.
They protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being.
Right.
They help you say no to things that drain you,
Uh-huh.
and yes to things that align with your values and goals.
You mean things like turning off email notifications after work hours?
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
Or declining social invitations when you need time to recharge.
Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first,
It can.
especially if you're used to people-pleasing.
Right.
But it's a powerful act of self-care
It is.
and a way to honor your own needs.
One of your sources had a great quote about boundaries.
Yeah.
Saying no to things that drain you
Uh-huh.
creates space to say yes to things that light you up.
That's beautifully put.
And it highlights how boundaries can actually free you up
Right?
to pursue the things that truly matter.
Yeah.
They help you create a life
Yeah?
that's more aligned with your values
Okay.
and your vision for yourself.
This is really resonating with me. It's
Yeah.
like building a fence around your garden
Yeah.
to protect the precious things you're cultivating.
I like that.
But speaking of cultivating, let's circle back to the topic of creativity.
Okay.
We touched on it earlier,
Right.
but I'm curious to explore how it relates to some of these other themes we've been discussing,
Yeah.
like well-being and purpose.
That's a great connection to make.
Yeah,
Creativity isn't just about painting or writing poetry.
right.
It's a way of being in the world, a way of approaching challenges with curiosity and an open mind.
I'm remembering that quote you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Creativity is intelligence having fun.
Yeah.
It seems like when we're feeling well,
All right.
when we have a sense of purpose, we're more likely to tap into that playful, curious energy.
Absolutely. Think about it.
Yeah.
When you're stressed and depleted,
Mm-hmm.
are you more or less likely to come up with a brilliant solution to a problem?
Definitely less. I'm usually just trying to survive those days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you're feeling energized
Uh-huh.
and connected to something larger than yourself,
Yeah.
that's when creative breakthroughs happen.
One of your sources talked about the importance of beginner's mind
Right.
for fostering creativity. What does that mean exactly?
It's about approaching things with a sense of openness and curiosity,
Uh-huh.
as if you're seeing them for the first time.
So like a child who's fascinated by the world around them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Children are naturally creative
Yeah.
because they haven't yet developed all the assumptions and limitations that we adults tend to carry around.
So it's about shedding those preconceived notions
Right.
and allowing ourselves to be surprised and delighted by the world again.
And that sense of wonder is often the spark that ignites creativity.
Your notes also mention the importance of embracing failure
Yeah.
as part of the creative process.
That's crucial. So many people are afraid to try new things because they're afraid of making mistakes.
Right.
But mistakes are inevitable,
Right.
and they're actually valuable learning opportunities.
There's a famous quote by Thomas Edison.
Yes.
I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
It's a perfect illustration.
Yeah.
Edison's willingness to experiment and learn from his mistakes ultimately led him to invent the light bulb.
It's inspiring to think about failure as a stepping stone to success,
It is.
rather than something to be feared.
And it ties back to that growth mindset we were talking about earlier.
Right.
When you believe that you can learn and improve, you're less afraid to take risks and try new things.
This has been such an enlightening exploration of creativity.
Good. I'm
It's making me realize that it's not just about artistic expression.
Yeah.
It's a way of being in the world, a way of approaching life
Right.
with a sense of playfulness and wonder.
And it's a key ingredient in personal growth.
Yeah.
When you tap into your creativity, you unlock new possibilities.
Okay.
You find innovative solutions to challenges,
Right.
and you live a more vibrant and fulfilling life.
This conversation has been incredible. We've covered so much ground.
We have.
Self-awareness, purpose, leadership, well-being, creativity.
It's amazing.
It's amazing how interconnected all of these aspects of personal growth are.
It's like a beautiful tapestry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Each thread enriching and strengthening the others.
As we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I'm left wondering,
Yeah.
how do we bring all of this together?
Right.
How do we take these insights and turn them into real, lasting change in our lives?
That's a great question to explore. And I think it's where the real journey begins.
Let's take another short break
That's good.
and come back ready to discuss the practical steps
Okay.
we can take to integrate these powerful concepts into our daily lives.
Right.
We've covered so much in this deep dive. It's amazing to see how it all connects.
Yeah, it's really about creating a life that feels right,
Right.
using your strengths and facing challenges and doing something meaningful.
But I think a lot of people might be feeling a bit overwhelmed. Like, how do I even start?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel that way. It's easy to get inspired, but then
Right.
the real work is putting it into practice. I wouldn't try to change everything at once.
Right.
Just start small.
One of your sources talked about setting micro goals.
Exactly. Instead of saying, I'm going to be more mindful, which is kind of vague,
Right.
try something like, I'll spend 5 minutes every morning focusing on my breathing.
Okay.
Or I'll really listen without interrupting during one conversation today.
Okay, so it's about breaking things down into smaller steps.
Exactly. And remember, consistency is key.
Right.
It's better to practice a little each day than to try and do it all at once and give up.
Right.
Think of it like exercise.
Yeah.
It takes time and effort.
One of your notes had a great quote about this. Small disciplines repeated consistently lead to great achievements over time.
I love that it reminds us that change doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It's a process, and it's important to be patient.
There will be good days and bad days, days when you feel stuck.
Right, and that's where self-compassion comes in.
Okay.
When you stumble, don't be too hard on yourself. Just acknowledge it and move on.
One thing I'm taking away is the importance of reflection.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It's about taking time to think about what you're learning and what you could do better.
One of your sources suggested keeping a journal.
Oh, Right.
Journaling is a great way to understand yourself. You can see your progress and ask those big questions.
It's like talking to yourself on paper.
Exactly. And it helps you develop that self-awareness we've been talking about.
Another thing that stood out to me was finding support. We can't do this alone, right?
Absolutely. We need people who believe in us and support us.
Right.
It could be a therapist, a mentor, a friend, or even a group.
Having that safe space to share can make a big difference.
And connecting with people on a similar path is helpful too.
Right. It's like that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Exactly. So choose wisely.
Right.
And remember, personal growth is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's about exploring, discovering, and becoming.
And the most important thing is to enjoy it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Embrace the challenges and never stop learning.
This has been a great conversation.
Right.
I always learn so much from these deep dives.
Me too. And I hope our listeners are feeling inspired and ready for their own journey.
So if you could give one piece of advice to someone just starting out, what would it be?
I would say be kind to yourself. It's a journey, not a race.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Keep exploring, keep growing, and keep diving deep.